Lithography machines like ASML's High-NA EXE5000 project circuit patterns onto hundreds of individual chips on a silicon wafer.
If you've ever imagined something so unique that the whole world has to depend on it, then you probably peeped into the minds of the inventors in the Netherlands. After months and months of work, this manufacturing company was able to come up with a machine that will serve the world.
To get it from ASML's headquarters in the Netherlands to Intel's Gordon Moore Park in Oregon.
And you know the most amazing part? This machine is not produced anywhere else. No other manufacturer has even imagined it. We're talking of a technological wonder that is so enormous you would need something as strong as 20 trucks to carry it. Aside from the mind-blowing size, the company has sold only about 140 because it costs a whopping $200 million. Now you may begin to wonder what's so special about the machine and why it has that price tag. Well, at the end of this video, you may no longer wonder why the world depends on this machine. The chip-making machine. At the center of a big factory in the Netherlands, there is this revolutionary machine which took months-long assembly process and has now become what everyone relies on. This EUV lithography machine is the most expensive in the world right now, but you can say that it is one of the most important machines that have existed. And in case you think that's just some empty hype, I guess we should go deep into how important it really is. The machine is specially made for the production of microchips, which are really crucial in modern technology. I mean, these very advanced microchips literally power the modern digital age. You see them in data centers. They are important parts of cars, and they exist in every single iPhone. But this is where it gets even more interesting. The machine is only made by a single company. The Advanced Semiconductor Materials Lithography, or ASML, is the originator of this idea and the only company which has been able to execute the idea. So ASML has some form of monopoly on the production of this EUV lithography machine, which is the most advanced type of lithography equipment that the world needs. In fact, this incredible machine makes every single advanced processor chip that we use today. So, when we say that this company is one of the most extraordinary organizations in the world, you should know why that is.
I think we all know in XML that this is not the end. This is just the beginning. The opportunity lasts as long as we can bring solution to extend it.
Also, for this machine to produce microchips, it has to be one of the most complicated devices ever made. And this should speak volume about this spectacular company. The impact of this company even makes more sense when you consider the scarcity of microchips, which has been going on lately. In the midst of this chip shortage that has caused major setbacks for many tech companies, especially the manufacturers of PS5s and Teslas, the need for ASML has become higher, and it is only about to get bigger in the coming days. Speaking of high demands, ASML's stock has skyrocketed since 2018, and several tech companies that make use of microchips have depended on them since then. And here is a shocker. ASML even supplies some of the so-called chip-making companies. Quite funny, right? That explains why the price tag of the machine is that huge. It's so expensive that most companies cannot afford it. I mean, it really pushes the boundaries of physics and has set the pace for other manufacturing companies. So, I guess the price tag would make a lot of sense. However, apart from the importance and monopoly of this machine, there is a really crucial factor which contributes to the price tag, and that takes us to the root of the whole production. The Dutch company with US roots. ASML now plays a crucial role on the chip-making stage, and this has brought a huge success to the brand. So much that it is now bigger than all the older chip makers it supplies. However, things didn't really start on a great note for ASML. In fact, it was probably so bad that no one wanted to invest in this new EUV machine that has now taken the world by storm. In an interview with Peter Wenink, who has been the company's CEO since 2013, he mentioned that he joined ASML back in 1999, and that explains how long the brand has existed for. ASML started as a subsidiary of Dutch electronics company, Giant Philips, in 1984. At the time, they were conducting research in a tattered shed next to a Philips office building in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. According to him, that was the highest the brand could afford at the time because they had no money. So because the problems Philips had was so big, nobody thought that any sense could come out of their research however, in the first year, the company successfully launched its first lithography machine. The machine uses precise rays of light to print tiny designs on silicon to make what they called microchips. The first lithography tool didn't look anything like the new machine which they've just launched. It really looks like a projector, and it has a reticle with which it holds the image it wants to project on the silicon.
We are the only provider on the planet of this critical technology.
The semiconductor lithography was invented in a US military lab, and for a long time, up until the 1980s. The key lithography firms were American, based in New England. Developing this revolutionary technology was incredibly expensive, so since the brand didn't have the money, it went on a search, and thankfully, there were other brands willing to help. But maybe on a few conditions. This partnership was the basis of the way the company was built, but because of the conditions involved in the partnership, the brand was forced to be a system architect and a system integrator. In 2012, ASML offered about a quarter of its shares to its biggest three customers, Intel, Samsung, and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co., which is also known as TSMC. Since they had to accelerate the production and sales of the EUV lithography machine, the only way they could do this was to get their largest customers involved. Also, one way to make their commitment real and get the most from these partnerships was to make the partners shareholders in the company. Years later, the Dutch company was ready to launch the big idea, the EUV lithography machine. Looking at the level they were at the time and the financial status of the brand, none of the US industry frontliners were ready to invest in their expensive and risky idea, which was the ASML. But years later, it became a decision which they now regret because the company now produces 100% of the EUV machines which are being shipped worldwide from the facility.
Today, ASML has a monopoly on the fabrication of EUV lithography machines, the most advanced type of lithography equipment that's needed to make every single advanced processor chip that we use today.
With a machine which later became their breakthrough, ASML started turning a profit and went public on the Amsterdam and New York Stock Exchange in 1995. By the 2000s, ASML was acquiring California tech companies like Silicon Valley Group and various key suppliers like Cymer in San Diego, where ASML's light sources are produced. There is also a manufacturing area where the nozzles are produced and a place where the tin shoots out of. Let's just say that a lot goes into the production of these EUVs. That explains why the company has several companies all around the United States and a Dutch office in Veldhoven, which is currently their headquarters. Though ASML is a Dutch company, we can say that it relies so much on US components, most especially for its machines. And as far as the ASML is concerned, the company also relies very heavily on one Taiwanese customer for its sales. In fact, TSMC made up nearly 40% of ASML's sales in the early years, and in 2019, the Taiwanese chipmaker was the first to deliver high-volume chips made with EUV. This was a milestone that has kept it at the top of other partners since then, and ever since, its chip technology has been way ahead of Samsung and Intel. To cut the story short, it has been TSMC's customers that have gained a lot of benefit from their partnership with the Dutch company. Now let's talk about how this machine really works. How does lithography work? EUV refers to extreme ultraviolet, an incredibly short wavelength of light that ASML uses to print smaller, more complex chips. And with ASML, the company has been able to make use of EUV lithography to bring a whole new feel into chips making. A much better feel even. When you start breaking it down, you would find out that the production of this machine is sort of like the manufacturer winning a Nobel Prize in the engineering world. This machine was developed in a way that brought new methods of printing and making microchips, and these methods are at the very edge of physics. With the help of customer investments and the work of scientists, ASML figured out a way to create large amounts of extreme ultraviolet light with a very short wavelength. This wavelength is not only invisible to the human eye, but it is absorbed by all natural substances, even air. So you know what that means, right? The entire printing process has to happen in a vacuum, and that is what makes this machine really special. At 13.5 nanometers, ASML's EUV wavelength is the size of just 5 DNA strands placed side by side. In comparison, the previous generation machines used deep ultraviolet light, known as DUV, and they made use of wavelengths of around 193 nanometers. Don't get it wrong, guys, both DUV and EUV lithography are so advanced, but EUV requires precision down to the atom. The machine has a tiny part which contains molten tin being shot out at a pressure of 4,000 pounds per square inch. And that's exactly how the EUV light is created. The molten tin is shot continuously, and it never stops all through the process. The tin is streaming through a perfectly calibrated nozzle at a mind-blowing rate of 50,000 droplets per second. A 30 kilowatt carbon dioxide laser hits each droplet twice per second, vaporizing them into plasma. These tiny explosions are what emit photons of EUV light. A huge number of tin explosions need to happen, because only about 5% of the photons reach the actual surface. Also, the light particles are so short they get absorbed by mirrors, the typical method used to precisely aim light through a lens. So ASML partnered with German optics company Zeiss, which makes the flattest surface in the world. The flatness is so incredible that the EUV light bounces off the groundbreaking Zeiss mirrors until it hits photoresistant chemicals on the surface of the silicon. This is the part where the mini designs that make up the chips are printed. The aim needs to be so precise that TSMC says it's equivalent to shining a laser from the moon to hit a coin on the Earth. If any kind of defect particle whatsoever is on the tip of the nozzle, the printing is bound to fail. And the speed and scale at which this has to happen is the hardest part of it all. Would you believe that the machine produces as much as 3,000 wafers in a day? Yeah, you heard that right. There can be hundreds of chips on a 300 millimeter wafer and up to 10 billion transistors per chip. It's just amazing that ASML has gone the extra mile to make an extraordinary achievement. And guess what? They are able to replicate these on a mass production scale. And you know what the best part is? ASML may never face competition for a long time. Why is there no competition? First off, a lot of work goes into the production and sales of the machine. For context, a completed EUV machine is made up of 7 different modules. Each of these modules are built at one of ASML's 6 manufacturing sites, among its 60 total locations around the world, then shipped to the headquarters in Veldhoven, where it is reassembled for testing. Then it's disassembled again for and sent out for shipment. This takes 20 trucks and 3 fully loaded 747s. All these makes the process really tasking and expensive, and also contributes to the final cost of the machine. With each machine costing up to $200 million, ASML sold only 42 EUV machines in 2021, and only 5 customers could afford to buy EUV systems.
It's so expensive that most companies cannot afford it.
So when you consider these things, it may be hard for other potential competitors to execute the production even if they pick interest in it. Also, a lot of big companies have not been able to pursue a 7-nanometer chip, which is a major part of the machine. With the scarcity of these chips, the production of the microchip machine becomes even harder since it needs the 7-nanometer chip to work. So this way, other companies may never even get what they need to bring the machine to life. And that's a win for the originators of the idea, I guess. Outro. Okay, guys, this is where we would bring this fascinating topic to a close. What do you think about this new development? Let us know your thoughts about the brand new EUV lithography machine in the comments. And if you have any questions about this video, you can ask in the comments as well.